Hey, it's Kirk from the Forever Homestead. So in the last video, you saw us get the first section of that tower up. Today we are going to continue seeing if we can get the rest of the 63-foot tilt-up tower up. And we're going to start by getting the winch installed on the pad. Ow! The barn cat would like to say hi. We're trying to teach it to be a parrot. So yeah, Rascal and I would like to say follow along. So the next step is we need to mount the winch to this pad. So I have this piece of steel, and I left these. I left the rebar that goes down into the concrete, proud of the concrete, thinking I can use it to actually help secure this. So what I'm going to do, this is actually just a scrap I had, and it's pretty much the perfect length. So I'm just going to make a little notch in each corner, in each end here, that'll fit around this rebar. And then when I set the rebar in place, once the rebar is in place, I'll cut it level with the top of this thing. Yeah, I'll cut it a little bit, maybe a little bit low, and then I can actually weld the rebar to this plate. And then I'm also going to put some, I feel like that should be enough to hold it there, but I have some concrete anchors that I'm going to drill into here, and also mount that down to the plate. So I feel like that should work pretty well for all of that. So I'm just gonna kind of draw this up, and then I'll use my grinder to cut these notches, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we have got little notches cut out around the rebar. We've got the plate for the winch mounted to the steel, and we use these concrete anchors. They're about 1/2 inch concrete sleeves. They go into the concrete about 2 inches, and then you tighten the bolts and it expands the metal to hold them in there. So now I'm gonna have to pull my generator over here, the grinder and the welder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up, I'm going to take all the paint off around the outside edge of this, clean up all this steel, cut these off a little bit below the surface of this steel, and then I can weld the rebar to the plate. I'm going to weld a few spots on this to hold this to the plate as well, and hold that, and then I have to come up with a bracket of some sort to hold the, I don't know what to call it, the line goes through a bearing, a roller plate, I think that might be called, at the front of this thing to help feed the line in. So that will be the next step. I've got this all welded in place, just need to clean it up a little bit. Got a little bit of a cold joint there. I'm going to grind that off and try it again, but I got the rebar cut off and welded to the plate. I got the plate concrete lagged in, and then I welded that, the mounting plate for the winch to the steel plate. Now I've got a little bit of an issue that I have to work through the details. I do have a 10-foot section of pipe to extend that back further. But the problem is that that pole is shorter than, or almost the exact same height as that pad. So when the winch has it all the way down, it's going to hit the top of the pad, or the top of the winch, and not be able to go down any further, which is no good. I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. So I might have to cut this pipe just at the edge of this base here. And that will allow me to pull it down most of the way, and then I will have to make this last piece of pipe movable, I think, so I can pop that off and push it down. I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that yet. yeah, I'll have to think on that one for a while. So the bracket's installed. Now all that happens is this just bolts on here. So there's 4 bolts that hold it on here. Now, so those 4 bolts go on there and hold it tight. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm actually going to leave the winch out here, like build a cabinet or a case or something out of it, or if every time I'm done using it, if I'll remove it and bring it inside. The battery is just gonna kind of come and go. Currently, it just has these battery clips on it, so I'm gonna replace these with alligator clips, so it's just quick and easy to hook it on. But I'm not sure whether I want to leave this out here with the cabinet or take it away. If I take it away, I'm gonna swap these bolts out for like wing nuts to make it quick and easy to take on and take off. If I leave it here, I'll continue to use these with some lock nuts on it, or lock washers on it, and build the cabinet over it. The battery's going to come and go every time, but there is quite a few electronics and stuff here, like there's the relay and the switch and all that. So I'm not 100% sure what the best way to do. What would you do? Would you leave it out here, or would you kind of take it back and forth? It'd be pretty easy to waterproof a box. Basically, I kind of feel like the easier it is to use it, the more often I will drop the turbine to do maintenance and stuff on it. I'll just show you the other parts here. To connect it up, it's pretty simple. I've just got this clevis pin here. So this pulls out, and I've welded a small little plate on the bottom here. So this just quick and easy connects on there. Now this top one here is welded on because when it's time to raise and lower the tower, I have these fastened onto the guy lines, so I can remove them from the back anchor point one at a time and screw them onto this, and that holds the tower up while it's being lowered, so it keeps that 90-degree angle on it. But we'll show you that once we get down to raising and lowering it. So I'm going to add the next section on now. So I just lowered it down, which was a bit of a pain in the ass because the gin pole is actually slightly longer than the first section. So it's actually top heavy right now with the gin pole. But now once I add this next section on, things will go a lot smoother because it'll be twice as long, almost twice as long as it is high. So I'm going to get this measurement here, the distance for my coupler, and I'll quickly weld that on the next section and get it set up, and then I'll come back to you. Hey guys, if you're liking these videos on off-grid living and solar and wind, if they're your kind of videos, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps us with our YouTube channel, helps YouTube know that you guys like it. Also make sure you hit that like button. We are probably on the last day of the actual tower build. We've been working on this on and off for about 2 weeks. We have probably, I don't know, 4 days worth of labor in it so far. Today we are working on the last section, the last 20-foot section. So we've got, you can see the seam in the pipe right there, and then it goes up to here. So currently we have 3 sections, 21 feet each, so we have a 63-foot tower. Our gin pole is just over 30 feet, or maybe just under 30 feet. So we've got the bottom 2 sections, we've got the guy lines all figured out. The top section, just for the first raise, I just have some ropes that I use to hold that section until I can get it in its upright position and get the guy lines actually attached to the gin pole for the raising and lowering. It's been a little bit of a, I don't want to say struggle, but it's been a little bit of a design challenge here and there, trying to get 60 feet up in the air, keeping it true and plumb and level and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of learning as we go about the ins and outs of raising and lowering this thing. I did have a bit of a terrifying moment when I raised the second section with it because it got to a tipping point when it was almost vertical. Maybe the gin pole was 5 or 6 feet off the ground over there with the winch pulling it in, and the weight kind of changed which side was the heavy side, and the whole thing crashed to the ground. Well, fell to the ground the last 5 feet, and of course none of the guy lines for that second section were even on. So I thought everything was going to come tumbling down. So that was slightly terrifying, but it worked out. So raising this last section for the first time, I'm a little bit more confident in it. I'm going to go a lot slower, and then when we get close to that 5-foot tipping point, which hopefully is only a couple of feet this time now that there's 60 feet of pole on the top of it, but I'm going to be prepared for it this time, and I'm going to pull down on it with myself instead of using the winch for that once we get to about that 5-foot mark, just so I can start to figure out where that tipping point is. And then once I actually know that, I'm going to actually mark the line on the winch so we know when to be prepared for that stuff. But yeah, so today should be the last day. I just have to make up 2 more guy lines in the barn. I have made a little bit of a change as far as how they connect up on the blocks here. As you can see on the original, I have the turnbuckles going right through the bolt, and then I found on these 2 side ones, if you do that, they actually start, when you're raising and lowering it, when there's force on the turnbuckles, it actually starts bending them. So I've changed from putting the clips, the C-clips, whatever you call these, on the top like that. I'm actually going to change them all out and put them on the bottom so these things can actually wiggle around. On the front and back it doesn't matter because they're only going, front to back, whereas this is they bend on the raise. So learning curves all the way around, but I'm going to get these last 2 made up, and then we'll check back in with you. Okay, so we're about to do a raise. Had a slight hiccup. I ran out of the 3/16 aircraft cable, the stainless steel cable. According to my calculations, I should have had 4 feet left when I was all done, but instead I'm 30 feet short. So whether it was not a 500-foot roll like it advertised it, or over the course of 2 runs I added 2 or 3 extra feet accidentally on, because I was just using my high-tech arm measurement, which is pretty close to 5 feet, so I'm surprised. Anyway, I used 1/8 inch like I used for the lower. On the back side here, prevailing winds always come from up this way. Well, 90% of the time come from up that way. So most of the force is on the back, on the front cable. The back doesn't have a lot. But just for today's mission, I am going to use that 1/8 inch cable just to get the tower up, and just for the grand direction today. Then I'm going to have to go buy another 70 feet of the 3/16 cable just to make myself feel better on a windy day, especially if it changes directions on me. So I'm going to do the first raise here. I'm just going to set you up on a tripod and you can watch. Hopefully it's not too eventful. I know you guys watching at home probably want it to be eventful, but I don't. So we'll see how this goes. So, yeah, that clip you just saw, it's embarrassing, but I couldn't get it up. It's okay, Jessica tells me that happens sometimes. So the trees in the background of that last video there, I've been trying to save them for years, trying to find any excuse not to take them down. In the summer, they provide some great shade, they put shadows over the dog yard. And they're nice trees. The downfall is in the winter, when we're really desperate for power, they kind of do the same thing. They cast shadows all over the solar panels. And I've kind of been back and forth on whether I keep them or take them down, or, you know, it's been kind of going on for years. But yesterday, in a fit of rage, I decided it was time for them to come down. Every time the tower comes down, if there's, or goes up or down or whatever, if there's a little bit of a wind shift, it would kind of pull it into those trees, and it was going to wreck blades. It was tangling the stays. It was just causing me all kinds. They were just causing me all kinds of problems. So, yeah, I cut them all down, which of course leaves me with this giant mess here. So I'm gonna have to pull the trailer over here and see if I can do a little bit of cleanup, get the yard ready to go. I can actually get the turbine on, wired up, all that kind of stuff. There'll be more about that next time. Until then, have a good one.